championships. I think people are getting more into their national pride as we get into this game.
Yep, team preview here. André Fumis on the left running a team that is pretty standard here with the Metagross, the Tapu Fini, the Landorus, Zapdos, Amoonguss, and Incineroar. Over on the other side, Jean-Paul has already actually made his choice right there. Obviously, the Pokemon that stands out. The Pokemon that stands out the most is definitely that Bisharp.
Yeah, Bisharp has the Defiant ability, not something we see that often, but you know what? It gets the opportunity to get a attack boost for anytime a stat is lowered, which means that in a world of multiple Intimidates, you not only get to cancel out that Intimidate, but you actually get one stage on top of that. So it's just a really consistent Pokemon. Definitely something to be afraid of if you're one of those trainers who are running, you know, something like the Intimidate Incineroar and the Intimidate Landorus Therian.
And here we go. Both players have sent out their leads. This is a very standard matchup right now that we're going to be broadcasting. It is going to be the Tapu Fini and that Zapdos lead out for Andre. Over on the other side, Jean-Paul leading with Tapu Koko and Charizard. It looks like it's going to go ahead and activate its Misty Seed here and boost its special defense on that Zapdos. So one of the new tools that Zapdos gets to play around with are those seeds.
It is one of those new tools, and I really like it because it just increases Zapdos' staying power on the field. Usually, if Zapdos is holding one of those seeds, it's probably going to want to go for a Tailwind or something, especially that it's staring down this, you know, these very fast, very offensive Charizard Y and this Tapu Koko. So Andre probably looking for a slow start, but I think if he's able to get the Tailwind up, he's going to be in a great spot for turn 2.
And Tapu Koko now using Thunderbolt, hitting in that Tapu Fini slot, doing over 50% right there. Super effective damage as Jean-Paul's Charizard now going for that Tailwind, going to try to boost that speed as Zapdos matches Tailwinds right here. So important thing to note that Jean-Paul's Pokemon have moved both before Andre's, so it doesn't even matter. Here comes the Calm Mind for that Tapu Fini. It is going to go ahead and boost that special attack and that special defense by one stage.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the Zapdos moved second, but I feel like that Charizard matched the Tailwind from the Zapdos because otherwise I think Charizard would have really loved to go for some sort of Fire-type attack. It wouldn't have done a lot of damage to that Tapu Fini, but it certainly would have done a ton of damage to the Zapdos, even with the Misty Seed, because the Sun is currently out on the field. So Jean-Paul, I think, just making sure that he won't fall behind in terms of speed control for this game. And I think that was really the best play for him. He's in a great spot now. Speed is still the same. This Tapu Fini will be slower than anything else on the field. Tapu Koko could easily knock it out with another Thunderbolt if it weren't for this Protect.
Tapu Fini protecting itself, not going to want to get KO'd just yet. Tapu Koko actually goes for a Thunderbolt in that Zapdos slot right there, doing some damage right there. And here comes a Flamethrower into that Zapdos. Thanks to that terrain, though, it's not taking that much damage at all. That Sun-boosted Flamethrower does do a good amount of damage, but Zapdos can only retaliate with a Heat Wave boosted by the Sun, doing a lot of damage to that Tapu Koko. Not very effective on that Charizard. So, wow, that great call right there from Jean-Paul to kind of read through that Protect. You know, Andre doesn't want to lose that Tapu Fini just yet.
Yeah, that was a great read by Jean-Paul, but a very curious play by Andre. You know, I think he wants that chip damage on both Charizard and the Tapu Koko going into this turn, because otherwise you would think a Thunderbolt from that Zapdos would probably be able to knock out that Charizard Y. You know, it's not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. Certainly, neither is Zapdos in terms of its offensive ability, but here we are going into turn 3 or 4.
Charizard using Flamethrower as the Amoonguss switches in. Amoonguss not really enjoying facing off against the Charizard at all. And Andre right now just really back against the wall. He's being forced to switch right here, sacrificing the Tapu Fini's Calm Mind boost. So now that Amoonguss is on the field, it's going to be heavily threatened by the Charizard. Incineroar is Andre's last Pokemon. Going to send it in. The Intimidate's not going to matter too much, but this heavily offensive lead right here for Jean-Paul has paid off so well for him because it's just created so much pressure against Andre.
Yeah, Andre had a very slow setup lead. I think he wanted to get a few more Calm Minds, and he certainly wanted to have the Tailwind and the only Tailwind on the field to be able to do that. So Jean-Paul's really done a great job of punishing that, and I think that he just needs to keep this momentum moving forwards. I like this Tapu Koko switch out. I think getting the Intimidate on that opposing Incineroar is certainly going to limit Andre's options. I think he's really going to be fishing for, I don't know, maybe a Spore onto that Charizard somehow, but even then, stop by the Protect.
And it looks like Charizard's protecting here. Incineroar using Fake Out into that Charizard Protect. It looks like Andre is going to go for Spore into that Charizard Protect as well as the team's Tailwinds finally peter out. You know, one great thing about Landorus and Charizard being in, of course, is the fact that Amoonguss can go for Spore, but it can also just easily take a powerful Sun Boosted Flamethrower. It
could, and that's certainly why I think Andre wanted the support of the Fake Out that turn, because it was either the Spore was going to connect or you know, the Charizard would have protected it, otherwise would not have attacked. He doesn't have that support anymore, so it's a bit of a risky play. I think, you know, stalling it out here, using that Protect is good if he wants to ensure that the Amoonguss is around for a little bit longer, but if this Tapu Fini isn't able to get knocked out this turn and the Incineroar able to return with another Fake Out, which it looks like it won't because of that Pinch Berry, you know, he's just fighting a very uphill battle. He needs to find some momentum from somewhere.
Yep, and the Landorus Therian with that synergy, with that Charizard Y, can just easily go for Earthquakes without worrying about hitting its own partner here. The Earthquake connects into that Tapu Fini and does a decent amount of damage right there, bringing it back down after it healed back up with that Berry. So, again, Andre's back is against the wall. Jean-Paul is clearly in the driver's seat right here, and just showing that, you know, Peruvian VGC is nothing to be trifled with.
Yeah, nothing to be trifled with. I mean, these are three very, very, very offensive Pokemon on his side of the field, and the way he's playing them, he doesn't even really have to worry about their weak defenses. He's just knocking out all of the threats from Andre's side of the field. I guess good thing to note for Game 2 that Amoonguss was able to take a non-Sun boosted Flamethrower and get its health back with a Leaky Berry, but it's still an uphill battle.
This is what Andre needs right here, because now this Amoonguss can actually put something to sleep. Landorus Therian uses Earthquake, does connect with both Pokemon. No, sorry, does not connect with Tapu Fini because of the Protect, and now Amoonguss can finally go for the Spore. Gonna put that Landorus to sleep right here, allowing Tapu Fini a chance to kind of go for a Muddy Water if it really wants to be able to hit the Landorus and that Charizard. So smart play right here from Andre, and this might be his chance to come back with a sleeping Landorus, depending on how many turns of sleep that this Landorus takes.
Yeah, we know that this Landorus is going to be asleep for one turn. It is guaranteed to be asleep for one turn, and the fact that Jean-Paul is switching that out and revealing his last Pokemon, I think is him just conceding, I won't attack with Landorus this turn. The best thing I can do is try to set myself up for success. Not sure if Cresselia staring down an Incineroar is the best way to do that, but we don't really know anything about this Cresselia yet. It's one of those Pokemon that can be surprisingly offensive when given the opportunity.
Yeah, and of course Cresselia doesn't really enjoy facing off against Incineroar. It can easily take a knockoff or even a very powerful Flare Blitz, and it can't really do much back either. So here comes Tapu Fini's Muddy Water. It does land on that Charizard. No Calm Mind boost, not getting the KO at all on the Charizard, but this does open up the opportunity for a Fake Out in that Charizard slot to maybe try to get the KO.
It does, but then you have to remember there's still the Landorus in the back with the Intimidate to threaten the Incineroar, and I think more importantly there's still that Tapu Koko who we know outspeeds that Tapu Fini. It's lost so much health at this point. It might even be possible with like one more turn of maybe like something minimal from that Cresselia, maybe an Icy Wind or something, to be able to get knocked out by a Dazzling Gleam, and then it's down to just this poor Amoonguss against the world. Not really the best matchup for Andre.
Yep, Charizard protecting itself here, going to want to preserve it for later on as Incineroar goes for the Fake Out. Actually lands in that Cresselia slot as looks like Tapu Fini using Calm Mind. So a free Calm Mind right here for Andre. That could be big, maybe allowing Tapu Fini to hang on and go for another Muddy Water as Cresselia flinches. And yes, that is actually going to be important. Not sure if Cresselia was going for a Trick Room there or not.
I don't know. I mean,
but maybe Tapu Fini just outspeeds that Cresselia.
I don't think it was a Trick Room just because the way the board is set up. I think it'd be really not the best move for Jean-Paul. But yeah, knowing that the Tapu Fini is going to move first certainly is something to think about. But that Charizard's also faster than the Tapu Fini as well. So it's going to come down to how much this Heat Wave, I think, is going to do.
Or even a Flamethrower if you want that single target damage. So that Calm Mind is going to come in handy, but is it going to pay off? That's a bold move. We're going to have to see if it pays off right here on this turn. Is Tapu Fini going to be able to hang on and retaliate with a Muddy Water? Here comes a helping hand from that Cresselia, trying to get out all the stops here to try to get the KO. Charizard using Flamethrower, single target damage on that boosted Tapu Fini.
With
is it enough?
Hand,
it is enough. It is enough to get the KO.
Yeah, at that helping hand, that's one of the things I really love about Cresselia, is that it's a helping hand. Like, it literally just comes in and helps you out when you need it. So, more information, too, going into Game 2, that Cresselia is holding one of those Pinch Berries, and it looks like, honestly, it might have activated that turn if it wasn't for the knockoff. So, just a nice thing for Andre to know. Definitely an uphill battle. I can see why, you know, he might be considering clicking that forfeit button to just try and keep as much information about his team hidden as he can going into this game too.
And it looks like the match was forfeited. It looks like André Fumis forfeits game 1 here because does not want to reveal much more information about that Incineroar and try to just take some adjustments into game 2 and trying to steal it and force game 3 against Jean-Paul Lopez.
Yeah, so just really, I think, exciting from both these players. I really love Jean-Paul's just incredible offense, you know. I think that with the release of Incineroar, a lot of people have been playing a much slower game of Pokemon. I think they hesitate to bring these, like, you know, all attack, no defense teams to battle, but this just goes to show you, even with Incineroar, I mean, Andre's team has that bulk. It has the Zapdos. It has the Tapu Fini with the Pinch Berry. It has pretty much everything that you would want to see on one of these bulky teams. You can still run, you know, the big four, if you will, that Charizard, Tapu Koko, Landorus, Therian, and Cresselia, and be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and that Bisharp is just really playing a lot of mind games for Jean-Paul right there. Didn't bring it to the match, you know, just really trying to thwart and scare off, really just intimidate those Intimidate users.
And that's enough sometimes. I mean, I think Bisharp is a really great Pokemon. It has access to knockoff as well, which is sometimes, you know, it's really clutch, but just seeing that Pokemon with, you know, the Defiant or the competitive ability, you know, maybe it's a Milotic instead of a Bisharp, it is scary enough that it can deter your opponents from bringing it. And that sometimes is all you need.
Here we go now, jumping into game 2 between André Fumis and Jean-Paul Lopez. Charizard and Tapu Koko are the leads that Jean-Paul decides to go with, and Zapdos and Tapu Fini are the Pokemon that André actually decides to go with as well.
So looking
same teams.
I was going to say, it's looking a bit familiar here out on the field. The big question, I think, on my mind is whether or not these trainers are going to try and go for that Tailwind again. I mean, you saw Jean-Paul match Andre's Tailwind in game 1. Maybe Andre doesn't want to go for that again, but then you have to wonder, like, do I want to take that risk? And I think the answer is no. I think, honestly, regardless of what happens with these other Pokemon turn 1, just getting that Tailwind up is probably the best thing you can do for yourself. Just mentally thinking moving forward in this game.
Looks like we almost had a game state freeze right there.
Oh, I missed that.
Yep, now everything has been reset, and the game state is continuing to move along here as the trains activate, and Zapdos' Misty Seed activates as well. Again, that Misty Seed played off such a huge role to allow Zapdos to hang on from so many, like that onslaught of just powerful special attack moves coming from Tapu Koko and that Charizard.
It did. I think that the Zapdos is probably the Pokemon that we're going to see hang around this turn on Andre's side of the field. I don't think that Tapu Fini wants to stick around. I mean, even without the electric terrain, that Thunderbolt did so much damage to it. Tapu Fini really needs to wait until that Tapu Koko has been removed from the field in order to get those Calm Minds, in order to do what it wants to do.
Tapu Fini switching out now, not Landers, the other Intimidator. Incineroar takes the field, going to use its Intimidate ability, not going to matter much against the Charizard or that Tapu Koko, as Mega Charizard now takes its place. Going to go ahead and activate that Drought ability. Going to go ahead and bring out the Harsh Sunlight here to boost its Fire-type attacks. It's not going to be enough to KO the Zapdos, but it looks like it's going to be Gigavolt Havoc. I mean,
if anything is going to try and knock out the Zapdos, it's going to be a Gigavolt Havoc from this crazy strong Tapu Koko.
This could also just be into that Tapu Fini slot, maybe just trying to get the KO right there, because Jean-Paul noticed that Andre was not worried about switching out that Tapu Fini earlier in Game 1. And here comes the Gigavolt Havoc. It is going to go ahead and target down what was that Tapu Fini slot, so smart from Andre to switch it out. Incineroar taking that Gigavolt Havoc instead, as Charizard using Tailwind here, not going to want to lose speed control at all, doubling his team speed as Zapdos goes straight for a Thunderbolt here. Zapdos goes straight for the Thunderbolt here, hits in that Charizard and almost gets a one-hit KO. But it gets a big paralysis.
Okay, yeah, so that paralysis, I think, was what he needed at that point, because otherwise this Charizard and this Tapu Koko would have been incredibly freaking fast. Now they're still going to be able to outspeed. They're still going to be able to outspeed, but really that paralysis might be enough to sort of give Andre a little bit of wiggle room that he needs right now. I would really love to see him set up Tailwind this turn, just because otherwise he's going to find himself in a similar situation to Game 1, where he's just not able to deal damage fast enough, and you know, the Intimidate's going to slow him down. The fact that he's slower is going to slow him down, and with this Protect from the Tapu Koko, now would be a great time to set up.
Incineroar uses Fake Out, just going to hit into that Tapu Koko Protect here, as Zapdos does go for the Tailwind. In this case, I personally feel like when you set up Tailwind second, maybe one turn later, you actually end up with the advantage, because not only are you matching, but you get that one turn after take advantage of that tailwind.
You do, and I think it's going to be that one turn after that Andre really needs to focus on right now. Not so much about what moves he should play to make sure he gets the best out of this turn or the next turn, but he needs to set himself up so that when that one turn of being fast does come into play, he's able to utilize it. Maybe, you know, use the rage powders so that his Pokemon can't be targeted as much by attacks. Maybe just have those big damage dealers out on the field, but he needs to prepare for that.
Zapdos on Andre's side using Heat Wave, doing almost 50% of that Tapu Koko, as Landorus Therian on Jean-Paul's side, content with just going for Rock Slide, just trying to hit that Zapdos for super effective damage right here. So, you know, Amoonguss hits the field. You know, it can actually put that Landorus to sleep if it wants to.
That Landorus was slower than the Zapdos as well, so something to keep in mind. Looking at how much damage it took from that Heat Wave, might be an Assault Vest, might not. I would think that it's certainly on the bulkier side, especially since it's not as fast as it could potentially be.
Tapu Koko using Volt Switch. Zapdos hangs on, but it looks like Landorus will be able to just go ahead and get the KO if the Rock Slide connects, if Jean-Paul opts to continue to go Rock Sliding. Tapu Lele is going to take the field here. It is going to change the terrain. It is going to make the battlefield all sorts of weird here, preventing any sort of priority move. Not going to matter too much. Really just going to boost its Psychic type attacks as Zapdos roosts. Going to heal back its health. Going to also remove that rock damage, rock super effectiveness here, as Landorus using Rock Slide connects with both Pokemon. Is Amoonguss going to be able to move? It does. Goes for a Spore. Going to put that Landorus there into sleep. So Amoonguss just doing what Amoonguss does best.
It does. I'm really curious about Jean-Paul's adjustment. Tapu Lele still a Psychic-type Pokemon like that Cresselia, but certainly more offensive. You know, it felt like to me his mindset going into Game 1 was like, I'm going to have my 3, you know, very strong Pokemon, and then I'm going to have this Cresselia in the back so that I can potentially switch it in to take some attacks if I'm in a situation that I don't really like. But with the Tapu Lele now, it's almost like he's decided that he doesn't really need that. And that's a risk. You know, if Andre's able to capitalize on that, I think it's going to work out really well for him. But, you know, with another switch, he's going to need to start getting those calm minds up, I think. He needs to start gaining that momentum to have a chance to bring us into Game 3.
Andre switches out the Amoonguss into the Tapu Fini, preserving it, the Amoonguss for later on, as well as taking away Tapu Lele's Psychic terrain here. Now Tapu Lele using Psychic, it's not going to be terrain boosted. Still doing good damage right there. 40% gets a big special defense drop there as Landorus takes its first turn of sleep. So now Landorus can play sort of like a guessing game. Is Landorus going to wake up, or is it just going to continue to stay asleep, which could be huge?
I don't know. I mean, this is also the one turn where Andre's Pokemon do have the Tailwind up on the field, and Jean-Paul does not. So having Landorus asleep, I think, for that is great. I'm a little bit worried about this Tapu Lele, especially after the special defense drop on the Tapu Fini. You know, Andre needs some big damage. He needs to try and, I think, knock out this Tapu Lele before it's able to do much else. And we'll see if that happens. If the turn's starting, we're just going to go right into it.
Charizard coming right back out, going to change the weather back to the sunny weather. Really mitigating the amount that Muddy Water could do, as Incineroar takes the field here, going to take Psychics way better than that Tapu Fini with 1 stage of decreased special defense here. Now as, you know, the Intimidate's not going to matter too much. Lele is actually going to move before the Zapdos, as Zapdos tries to set back up the Tailwind. So now Andre gets pretty much Tailwind advantage for 4 turns, because Charizard's actually going to get knocked out this turn, most likely.
Most likely, yeah. So great defensive switch there. But again, another defensive switch. I really hope that we see Andre start to go on the offensive right now. I'd love to see a knockoff into that Tapu Lele to figure out what item it's holding. But, you know, if it's holding what I think it's holding, a switch here would probably be better off. I
think you just go outright for the KO with that Flare Blitz in the sun.
You do?
Yeah. You know, information is nice, but at the same time, getting such a huge offensive threat removed is even better. Landorus Therian takes the field here, going to use his Intimidate ability on the Incineroar. Zapdos content, which is going for sun-boosted Heat Waves here. Not going to get the KO on the Charizard, but here comes the Incineroar with a Flare Blitz. Going to not even double tapping into the Charizard slot. Oh, Landorus barely hangs on too. It does activate the Berry on Incineroar, but Charizard now can actually match Tailwinds here, which could be pretty big, as Charizard does get to bypass that Paralysis check, goes for a Tailwind here, and now Jean-Paul is on the other side of the Tailwind advantage.
He is, and he also has, I think, all the offensive power to go with that. Yes, it's true that this Charizard is paralyzed and has little HP, and this Landorus is still asleep and has barely any HP, but, you know, overall, there's still just a lot of damage potential in the back, and I don't know, I mean, Andre's been, I think his defensive strategy has been playing out a lot better for him, but I would still just like to see him start, you know, knocking out Pokemon. I think Heat Wave probably is going to do the job for him now, but he still has to worry about that.
Big avoid right there.
Oh, what if it wakes up?
If it wakes up, that could be a very strong Rock Slide coming right out, so a big avoid right there for Jean-Paul, probably hoping that Landorus wakes up, but no wake up right there. So fortunate right there for Andre that the Landorus didn't wake up and continues to stay asleep. That's actually very detrimental to Jean-Paul because he was about to be in position to have 2 fresh Pokemon come in, being able to go on the offense, but now it's just 1.
Now it's just 1, but that Pokemon is going to get its terrain of choice, and it's going to deal super effective damage to this Amoonguss. So Tapu Lele, a very scary Pokemon to be staring down right now. I think Zapdos is going to be forced to try and go for another Heat Wave just to pick up that knockout on Landorus if it connects. And then you have to wonder, what will this Amoonguss try to do? Will the Amoonguss be knocked out even? It's certainly a very sort of... it's a scary play to have to make. I mean, if I were Andre, I would almost be tempted to go for like a Rage Powder or something. Try and protect the Zapdos for one more turn and just sort of base my strategy around that. Not sort of give my opponent the option of saying who they're going to knock out this turn. But Switch as well. Looks like he's hoping that Tapu Lele targets down what was the Amoonguss.
Yeah, smart switch right there from Andre as Incineroar comes right back in, also reducing the amount of Rock Slide damage if the Heat Wave misses and Rock Slide has to connect on that Zapdos. Tapu Lele going for the Psychic, not going to go into that Amoonguss slot. Going to hit that Zapdos for good damage right there as Heat Wave does connect with Landorus and gets the KO. Doing good damage to Tapu Lele as well as, well, you can't actually fake out because of the fact that Psychic Terrain is up too. So, you know, Jean-Paul is not in that bad a position. Never mind, the Tapu Koko comes right back in, and that's going to go ahead and take away that weird battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, this is Know Your Terrains 101. Depending on what terrain's on the field, you have to adjust your plays accordingly. And Jean-Paul's also down to his last 2 Pokemon, so if Andre wanted to, he could even remove the electric terrain and replace it with the misty terrain. Still have access to Fake Out and just really sort of adjust, and I think that's what he needs to do. This Tapu Koko is so powerful. Letting it attack one turn would certainly be detrimental, but here we are.
And that's good to note. That is actually going to be a Choice Scarf Tapu Lele because it outspeeds Tapu Koko, actually. So Zapdos finally using this turn to go ahead and set up the Tailwind. So it's really a battle of speed control here, and it looks like Andre's Tailwind is going to be lasting another 3 turns after this one.
That was pretty great timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really great job by Andre. I think I really honestly underestimated the bulk of his team. I was expecting this Tapu Koko to come in and just like start saying, oh, Incineroar, Thunderbolt, Electric Terrain, Tapu Lele, Psychic Terrain, but Andre clearly has done some very defensive training with his Pokemon, and I think that's really paying off right now. It's possible that Jean-Paul also, maybe might have underestimated just how bulky these Pokemon are, and I'm really curious to see, if we do go into a Game 3, which is looking very likely at this moment in time, how exactly he's going to adjust to that.
Tapu Lele using Psychic here, going to try to break the wall on Zapdos, maybe try to fish for a special defense drop here as Tapu Koko goes for a Thunderbolt into what was that Incineroar slot. But the smart switching right here from Andre, and this is an amazing turn of events here for Andre, coming into Game 1, he didn't do that well, against these very hyper-offensive leads from Jean-Paul, but now it's the tides have turned, The
tides have more than turned.
Hyper-offensive core has just been broken by this defensive play by Andre, and here comes Zapdos again with another Heat Wave, almost sealing the deal here and forcing Game 3 as Tapu Lele finally gets to use the Psychic against that Amoonguss, which it's wanted to do, but Amoonguss still hangs on. Special defense drop not going to matter too much. Okay, well now it's going to matter because it actually heals back up with a 50% berry.
Yeah, but this is great information for Game 3. If, hypothetically, that was a Psychic in Psychic Terrain, that would knock out that Amoonguss pretty easily, I think. So, information is the best thing that Jean-Paul can be looking for right now. Whereas Andre, it seems like he's pretty content to keep clicking that Heat Wave button. kind of am curious as to why. I think he's being very conservative about information as well. So you have to wonder, is there something that he's trying to hide on his team that could potentially be game-changing going into Game 3?
Yeah, Jean-Paul right there, clicking the forfeit button instead, not going to want to draw this out, maybe save some information for later, or even, you know, try to maintain time for later on as well. So
it is something you have to worry about when you're playing someone who's more than content to just keep switching and hanging out and, you know, playing the long game.
We've already seen all 4 moves from that Zapdos, by the way.
Oh, we have? Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, we've seen the Thunderbolt, we've seen the Roost, we've seen the Heat Wave, and we've seen the Tailwind.
Yes.
So there's no Protect from that Zapdos, so that's going to be key information to know. You can just go ahead and attack that Zapdos slot if you need to get some damage out, but you have to watch out because you want to be able to do enough damage to be able to KO it and not allow it to roost.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that you know, he was relying so heavily on Heat Wave. I think that it shows a bit of confidence, and you know, I didn't want to bring this up unless we were positive about that Thunderbolt being revealed, but you know, Heat Wave, not an accurate move. Certainly does benefit from the sunlight that Charizard brings with it. But you have to say, oh, well, if you're going into the end of a game 2 and you're just clicking the Heat Wave button, essentially waiting for your opponent to forfeit, you have to be pretty darn confident about your win condition. So I think that's good for him. I really like how he identified that. But I have to wonder about how this turn 1's going to go, because again, it feels like we're looking at something pretty darn similar on the screen.
Yep, it's going to be the exact same leads for both players. Andre made one adjustment with this in the last game, was just simply switching out that Tapu Fini to take the Gigavolt Havoc a lot better with that Incineroar. So again, that Misty Seed is going to play a huge role. I don't think Zapdos left the field last game for Andre.
I don't think it did at all, and that's really what you want to do when you're holding those seed items. You know, you get your boost, you hold on to your boost at all costs, and fortunately with the, you know, having that Roost, being able to heal yourself right back up, that's enough if you're facing down the right Pokemon.
And here we go now, Game 3 between these two players from Latin America. I am so nervous as to how this is going to play out. Tapu Fini switches out, Incineroar comes right back in. Is it going to be the same plays as Game 2 here as Tapu Koko? Is it going to go for that Gigavolt Havoc, or is it just going to go for a plain old Thunderbolt here? The Intimidate not going to matter too much either. It looks like Charizard is going to go ahead and follow suit and Mega, well, not follow suit, but it is going to Mega Evolve again, just like in Game 1. Or, sorry, not like in Game 2. Well,
in Game 1 and
Game 2. So
1, 2, 3.
Here we go.
You have to wonder, though, is the Z move going to go into that Incineroar again, or is something else going to happen? I'm like, oh.
Yep, the Z move comes out, Gigavolt Havoc. Here we go, Tapu Koko using its Gigavolt Havoc. Is it going to go ahead and target down the Incineroar, or is it going to go ahead and target down that Zapdos? So this is going to be key as to where it goes. If it goes in Incineroar, it should hang on. Zapdos should definitely hang on too. But what is Charizard going to follow up with?
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking a Flamethrower plus this Gigavolt Havoc into the Zapdos might actually be enough to knock it out, and he did target the Zapdos, so...
Nah, I don't think a Flamethrower is going to be enough to KO it from here. Charizard using Flamethrower, going to target down the Zapdos. How much damage is it going to do? It does not get enough to get the KO. Zapdos using Thunderbolt, going to connect onto that Charizard. Is there going to be paralysis? No paralysis here, so that is different from Game 2 as well, and that's going to be big.
But the Incineroar is out on the field, and it can fake Pokemon out, provided that Tapu Lele does not switch in from the back. So I think that Andre still has a really great position here. I like how he didn't go for Tailwind in that turn 1, because knowing that he was going to switch in something with Fake Out meant that he would essentially have...
Oh! Tapu Koko using Volt Switch on the Zapdos. It does not get the KO. 2 hit points remaining right there.
Oh, man.
And Jean-Paul just did not opt for the more powerful Thunderbolt, just thinking that Volt Switch would be enough. Does Jean-Paul double tap? Does he go for another attack?
There was no Fake Out either, so that Incineroar is free to deal some damage potentially with that Sun-boosted Flare Blitz.
Here comes the Heat Wave. Smart play right there from Jean-Paul, just not risking it, getting the big KO on that Zapdos, and now Speed Control is actually going to be on Jean-Paul's favor. Looks like it's going to be a knockoff, and Charizard hangs on because of that Landorus Intimidate, so big plays right here from Jean-Paul Lopez.
I think he might have thought that the Charizard was going to be the Pokemon that switched out there. And, you know, I think getting Landorus on the field was great. Getting that Intimidate down on the Landorus obviously played off immediately, but, oof, that is such a rough knockout to just barely miss. Now this Tapu Fini, you know, it can have an opportunity to try and get a couple of Calm Minds in potentially, but the Sun is going to be working against it. Those Muddy Waters are just not going to be that strong with the Sun weakening it. Incineroar I mean, yes, it probably is going to be forced to switch out here to save that Intimidate for later, but André is just being forced to reposition himself yet again, and this is something that Jean-Paul certainly has the offensive to take advantage of. I really hope he seizes it.
Charizard uses Heat Wave here, boosted by the sun, bringing Incineroar down to under 50%, as Landorus using Earthquake, going to connect on both Incineroar and that Tapu Fini, thanks to that synergy with that Charizard. Is it going to be enough to KO that Incineroar at half health? Incineroar is pretty bulky, and it is enough to get the KO, bringing Tapu Fini down to about 40% as well. So Jean-Paul's hyper offensive team is right back at it. Calm Mind is going to be set up here for Tapu Fini, but oh boy, I mean, if Amoonguss is in the back and can maybe redirect a Flamethrower, but a Heat Wave and an Earthquake might be enough to get the KO on that Tapu Fini from this point.
Yeah, and this is what Charizard and Landorus, I think, really love to do together. Unless you have a Pokemon that knows Wide Guard, there's really no stopping this Heat Wave Earthquake combo. They're both pretty fast Pokemon. They both deal tons of damage, especially with the sunlight out on the field in that Heat Wave. It's just something that you have to stop before it's really able to get set up, and unfortunately for André, the combination of that Intimidate and that knockoff just did the right amount of damage to let Charizard hang around and get a beautiful knockout on that Amoonguss.
The sun boosted Flamethrower, single target, and you can see it in Andre's face. That is just devastating right there. Landorus there going to go for a knockoff, going to knock off that Mago Berry. Just really just not allowing it to heal up, and it looks like Andre actually just might throw in the towel here. It's going to be the lone Tapu Fini versus Landorus Therian and Charizard White, heavily damaged with the Tapu Koko in the back, but, you know, I just don't think that Tapu Fini without any healing power has any chance here.
And even if it did still have that berry, you know, that's like a one-time heal, and it would have to take 2 attacks from the opposing side of the field for at least a couple of turns. It's a very tall order. Not many Pokemon can take on 4 opposing Pokemon like that, and unfortunately for Tapu Fini, I mean,